Jonah chapter 4. This last chapter will blow your mind. We're going to have to spend 2 weeks on it. It's so bizarre that it's not even included in children's books most of the time. They just completely omit it. Can you imagine telling a short story and leaving out the final 25%? What would that do to the meaning of the story? What if you did that to The Boy Who Cries Wolf? It's like Bart Simpson's version. When his grandfather asked him, "Have you ever heard the story of the boy who cried wolf?" He says, "Yeah, boy cries wolf, has a couple laughs, I forget the ending." Think about how it ruins a story if you chop off the end. Any story, even super important ones. For example, this guy named Jesus said he was the Son of God and that he was going to die to pay for the sins of humanity. And then he did die on a cross. The end. Wait a minute. He just dies and that's the end? Isn't there more to that story? Kind of important. The resurrection. Why would you ever do that? The ending is crucial to a story. So Jonah chapter 4 is crucial to the meaning of Jonah. So let's just dive right in. Chapter 4, the ending of Jonah. Remember how chapter 3 ended. Jonah preached that Nineveh would be overthrown, and the people repented of their evil ways. Then after they repent, the last verse of chapter 3 says, "When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction he had threatened." Okay, so now chapter 4 begins. Here's verse 1. Jonah was greatly displeased and became furious. That's a twist right there. If I went to Tehran and preached the gospel and the whole city turned to God, I would be so excited. But Jonah's displeased and furious at God. But based on what we know about Jonah so far in this book, I guess it kind of fits his character. He prayed to the Lord, "Please, Lord, isn't this what I said while I was still in my own country? That's why I fled to Tarshish in the first place. I knew you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger, abounding in faithful love, and one who relents from sending calamity. And now, Lord, take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live." Can you hear the anger in his voice? The fury? I knew you would forgive them. So just kill me now. I'd rather die than live in a world where God doesn't punish the Ninevites. Whoa. Jonah is a story about a man who wants judgment for his enemies. One question about this: how do we make sense of this story if we don't have real enemies? And some people do have real enemies, but some people don't. Today, I can only deal with people who don't have real enemies. But spoiler alert, if you do have an enemy, you gotta love them. Now, personally, I don't have a true enemy, and some of you don't. We have people who annoy us, people we can't stand being around, people who bore us or irritate us, people with bad breath. I used to work with a guy with bad breath, and he would talk to me, a super nice guy, and he would come talk to me, and I'd be like, yeah, just waiting for him to leave. But he wasn't an enemy. He wasn't out to get me. Now, we do have people who wrong us, who hurt us. That's true. But no real enemies. An enemy is different. Their goal is to ruin you. If my car breaks down and I have to walk 10 miles because my phone is dead, they're happy that that happened to me. I don't have any of those. I don't have people who are like trying, working to get me fired, gossiping to the boss about me, hoping I'll get fired. I don't have anyone who's trying to steal my wife. I did have a guy try to steal my fiancée. We were in college, he was in the gym, and my wife Kate was there, now my wife, at the time she was my fiancée, and he went up to her and said, "Hey, just want to let you know, Jacob's not your only option." But really, even that guy wasn't a real enemy. He was actually really nice. He let her know how he felt, he wasn't pushy, and then he accepted her decision, never bothered us again. So my point is that I don't have any real enemies. Many of us don't. Why not? Why did Paul have people trying to kill him? Why did Daniel get thrown in the lion's den? Why did David have his father-in-law try to kill him? Why did Jeremiah get thrown down a well? Why did Peter, traveling with his wife, get arrested? Why did John get beaten and imprisoned? Why did Stephen get stoned? Why did Jesus get crucified? Well, that's different. Was it different? Jesus said, "If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also." So why aren't we persecuted? Maybe it's because we're not following Jesus very closely. That should scare you. If you're freaking out right now thinking about that, at least that's something. At least you care. I'm worried about the ones who are like, whatever. I hope that scares you. It scares me. So here's what I say to people who don't have enemies. Wake up! This next hour after you watch this video, you get one shot at living that hour. You get to live this hour once in the history of the universe. How are you going to use it? Well, I'm getting a little hungry. I should probably work on that thing. It'd be nice to get it done. This age lacks passion. Men's thoughts are thin and flimsy like lace. They themselves are feeble like girl lace makers. The thoughts of their hearts are too puny to be sinful. For a worm, it might be regarded as a sin to harbor such thoughts. But not for a being made in the image of God. Their lusts are dull and sluggish, their passions sleepy. They do their duty, these shopkeeping souls. We are such cowards, such fools, frittering away our hours, watching TV, pursuing hobbies. Use this next hour to get on your knees and worship God for His terrifying power. Get on your face, literally. Lock your bedroom door and physically bow down to the God who created the universe, who created your soul. He didn't make it to watch TV, but to worship Him. That's what I say to people who don't have enemies. But also, probably the people around you become your enemies for a moment here or there when you're angry at them. So for 10 minutes a day, you do have an enemy. Jesus said, love your enemies. You only get a chance to obey Him while you're angry. I hate when they do that. I'm so angry. That means I have a chance to love my enemies. Right now. I've got to do it now. I can't wait till I cool off. Got to do it while I'm still angry. Now, there's two ways this can go. One, it can soften you. You can be angry. I need to love my enemies. I'm not being very loving right now. I shouldn't be mad. I should be loving them. I probably have some obnoxious habits too. What can I do to love them? I don't know. I'll go wash their car or whatever. That's the one way it can go. It can soften you, make you more like Jesus Christ. Or it can make you self-righteous. They just did that thing I hate because they're such a mean person. I'm washing their car because I'm such a good person. I love my enemies. I'm like Jesus. I go to church. I'm good. They're just mean. Look at me right now. I'm doing this great thing for someone that just hurt me. I'm doing this because I'm so good. Now, I'm making it really obvious so you can get the point that we do that. If you don't think you do that, that's a warning sign that you're already blind to it. Now, some of you maybe don't. I don't know your hearts. Hopefully some of you never do that, and that's great. But I do sometimes, and it's a sin, and I suspect that many people do that. Here's the thing. You're so focused on what they're doing good and what that other person did wrong. Jesus does not give salvation to good people. Good people go to hell. Jesus came to save sinners. Jesus did not say, "Blessed are the righteous." He said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." We say, "I'm a nice person." You know what Jesus said about nice people? "Because you are neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth." Why am I saying all this? Because there is a tendency to be satisfied with being morally decent. I'm a good person, I'm not a racist like Jonah. I go to church and I got saved and all that, and I live my life, and I have my interests, and God and I have God too. Like, God is a little slice of their life. They're just okay with it. There's no hunger. And there's this other tendency to say, I am all about God. I go to church all the time. I read the Bible every day. There's no hunger for righteousness because they think they already have it. They're like Jonah. I'm the good one. The Ninevites are the evil people. And in the middle's maybe like the Greeks. They're good at math, but they're not going to heaven. But they're fine. But I'm the good one. Ninevites are the really evil, nasty, violent, sick, sadistic murderers. There has always been a tendency for the people of God to think that they have an elevated status. That's why Jonah thinks it's okay for him to get God's mercy, but not the Ninevites. It's always been that way. That pride and self-righteousness is the silent killer. Because the more you commit these sins, the more you think you're not sinning, the more blind you become. The Pharisees were like Jonah. They were like, this woman just had sex with some guy she wasn't married to. And Jesus yells at us? It doesn't add up. But it does add up. Because she sinned with sex and you sinned with self-righteousness. The difference is she knows that she sinned. And you don't. You're blind to your sin. Now, I can't see anyone else's heart but my own. And even mine is difficult for me to understand. But I can tell you this. I grew up a very serious Christian, and I was like Jonah. I was like the Pharisees, blind to my own sin. Jonah is angry because he's right. They do deserve judgment, and it's so obvious. What's not obvious to him is his own self-righteousness. And the author made it super clear to us readers how blind Jonah is. You were just inside a fish, you idiot. You think you're good? Did you forget why you got swallowed alive? It was because you're wicked, but you can't see it. Pray that God opens your eyes to see your own wickedness and to see how much you need His grace. Next week, we'll conclude with how God opened Jonah's eyes.